Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Healing Us podcast. I'm Daniel Regan, your host. Today, we have an exciting guest. We have Gledis, and she is the founder and CEO of Kura Health. So, tell us, what is Kura Health? What is it all about? And give us a little background.
Okay, well, Dan, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Very, very excited to join your podcast. Uh, Kura Health. So, Kura Health is the central nervous system of a clinic where we cover every aspect of patient journey, clinical, led by providers, as well as operational decision making, led by the leadership of a clinic. So, with that said, we track patient journey in order to have a scientific narrative of their progression and regression. From a provider standpoint, we're looking to improve their day to day and make clinical decision much easier. But you can't really improve patient outcomes if you do not have a healthy business. So at the end of the day, I call Cura the digital brain of a clinic where we can tell you in a very quick manner what are your business and clinical vitals.
I love how you put that in the central nervous system, and you're doing this through artificial intelligence technology.
Absolutely, we're powered by artificial intelligence, and it. I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be possible without AI, but AI is one aspect of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we're looking to add a human touch to treatment and being able to achieve personalized treatment so not everyone is treated with a very broad brush when they enter a rehab center.
Well, I think it's amazing, and it's so needed, and we live in such an exciting time right now when it comes to the exploration in behavioral health, the expansion of technology, medical devices, new medical interventions, development of peptides and different medicines. We're on so many breakthroughs right now in this industry, and I really see the future bright when we link all this together. I think far too often we keep things in silos, but specifically with AI, what we're seeing is that it has the ability to kind of correlate all these different areas within a service, right? There's a lot to running a behavioral health clinic, and keeping that together, all those different plates from normal business procedures, from operations, HR, stuff of that nature, administration, to the clinical services, to the medical services, right? And oftentimes where a lot of these treatment centers struggle is the communication between all these branches and how that correlates.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, technology has always been these different platforms. So you have 17 different technology platforms that you use to operate your business, but none of them talk to each other.
Yeah.
So is that what Cura is solving?
Absolutely. We're looking to integrate all the information available from a business, operational, compliance, revenue, human resources management, and patient care to be able to give you a very integrative, holistic view of what is happening at any time across verticals within your clinic. So, with that said, it's really about having a true analysis without you having to navigate, as you said, 17 platforms and trying to go on a scavenger hunt, trying to figure out one small detail, and that's taking you potentially 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending the tools that you have available to you. So the behavioral health treatment it's an emotional business. It is one of the most painstaking, uh, human labor intensive, emotional, operational, right?
Mhm.
So how can we make it more humane? How can we make it more personalized? Uh, Here's where the AI can come into play, where we can really augment some of the hardcore operational aspect of it that's time consuming
Mhm.
for the business owner, for the clinical and operational director, as well as the providers, right? So for us, the ultimate goal is to create a scientific stethoscope. As we very well know, mental health is a very subjective field. It's a lot of trial and error.
Mhm.
You kind of have to wait it out for the results, which most patients or caregivers or family members cannot really afford to wait that long, right? Because you can potentially lose someone. Uh, but the ultimate goal for us is, by being able to create clinical infrastructure and being able to build clinical depth, that we can create the ultimate scientific stethoscope for the clients that are in a clinic. Because, from personal experience, it's just a lot of trial and error as you go along, which can end up only hurting someone in the long term.
Mhm. Yeah, you bring up a huge point, with, quality care, and, a lot of these breakthroughs and good treatment centers, they tend to be like smaller centers, right? There's more individualized care for facilities. And when you look at research that's done, it usually has to be done on like a massive scale. So what often happens is the smaller facilities don't have the capacity to put that human element into their programming and do research at the same time. It's very difficult for an organization to juggle those two different things or correlate all these 17 different platforms into a report that can be scientifically studied, right? So I see what you're doing will really allow us to progress as an industry. And be able to get these reports, be able to put a magnifying glass or a stethoscope on these smaller cohort programs that are doing amazing work. Because now it's freeing up time. It's correlating all this, and that's going to be put out there publicly and be able to progress us forward. What do you think? What in your future vision of Cura and being able to align some of these things, where do you see behavioral health improving the most?
Well, I think, with so much good work being done, the one challenge that I've come across within the treatment center vertical, it's a very fragmented industry,
Mhm.
right? You're usually either PE owned, private equity
Mhm.
owned, and or you are an emerging treatment center that has been started by a family or by an individual. So there isn't really standardized initiatives or I would say standardized platforms to really help treatment centers to personalize care. So as I said, the ultimate goal, what Cura is aiming to do, and I think where the industry headed is personalized care. Really being able not just to have a scientific approach to mental health, but add a more holistic layer where we can add physiological data in addition to mental health KPIs.
Mhm.
Right. So, for example, we'll be looking at heartbeat. We'll be looking at, sleep patterns, overnight. And, it depends how long you're staying in a clinic. But I think, with that type of access to data, we'll be able to really pin down very quickly diagnosis, come up with the appropriate treatment type per client. So, for example, if you have someone who has just been recently discharged, then they come to Healing US centers, your team will be able to very quickly come up with a length of stay, you know, even though insurance might approve you for 30 days, but hey, based on the condition and based on the history of this client, actually, they need to stay in a clinic for 30 days, for 90 days, excuse me.
Mhm.
Right. And within these 90 days, here's the path that they should have. Here's the type of therapies that they should be engaging on a day-to-day basis. And that can not just be conversational therapy, but physical activity, music, art. But the goal will be that this is a very customizable type of treatment. And you won't need to add an extra headcount to be able to provide the service because you already have all the data available, and you'll be able to create very dynamic therapies based on all the intelligence that has been acquired. And once this is available, this can be available across the industry.
Mm. Yeah, it's to give clinicians the tool to be able to correlate someone's history and act almost as like a coach on the sideline.
Yeah.
Um, is so extremely helpful, especially when you look at more like hospital-based systems, larger CMS type of facilities where it's 300 clients in the building, you have a
Yeah,
50-person caseload. um, I give it to anybody that has caseloads of that size. It's hard to navigate, right?
absolutely.
And you're going from one session to the next session to
And the
groups, and
highest risk of, are these high volume institutions, right? Because if we're talking about a 300 bed capacity, or I think anywhere between 100 bed to 300 bed type of capacity, how are you able to ensure that you're not missing that very nuanced symptom
Mhm.
where unfortunately might lead to suicide 2 weeks after discharge?
Right.
Right? Like, what are some of the small details that you're potentially missing as a provider because you're extremely overburdened based on your caseload?
Mhm.
One of the critical aspects of Cura that we're trying to capture is actually provider well-being. So we're not only looking through the lens of the patient journey, but we're actually, magnifying the lens on the provider. How's the provider doing? What does their caseload look like? Where are we stuck with this specific person? Hey, we actually detected some burnout language from the provider. That means we need to do a better job of actually reallocating their workload and spreading it to some of the other providers, so then we can have a top performing provider,
That's
right?
amazing. So,
Uh,
so it's actually adding in like a supervision component for it.
Absolutely. 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 And when you think of institutions, the heart of a treatment center, the heart of a hospice are your providers.
Mhm.
If you're not protecting your providers, it's very obvious that it'll be very difficult for you as an institution to give the right quality care. And I think, unfortunately, COVID was really Pandora's box
Mhm.
when it came to mental health, and where we saw long waiting periods up to 6 to 8 months to be able to get care. But unfortunately, we don't have enough providers, and the few providers that we have, they're extremely burnt out, overburdened,
Mhm.
and experiencing their own mental health crisis.
Absolutely.
So I think we just need to be very cognizant. While we have some great business cases where we're addressing patient care, I think we also needed to make it very critical to address provider care.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, COVID created a huge shift in treatment in general, right? Where we saw, the emergence of virtual care. which is great because it gives access to people that may be in remote areas. I mean, not have access to care. But at the same time, there's shift in providers. What I've seen is at first it looked great because I can work from home now. It's on my time, the flexibility, the work-life balance. But just like we see in COVID, that isolation from facilities and in person also had a taxing effect on a lot of clinicians. Um, and the biggest thing from making the switch back into the facility capacity is, we've been dealing with huge funding issues. Insurances are constantly changing. We still don't know what's going to happen. We're waiting for, the ball to drop, and
Yeah.
also state funding for these things has been interrupted. So, um, clinicians deserve higher pay and more wraparound services for what they do. They are frontline workers, and we need to do better. And I think what you're presenting is a great way for us to have more observation on that, more of a tether. And really what comes about that is awareness, right? And now we
Yeah.
need the intervention of what do we do when we find that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are been very challenging times. Last week, I attended a session organized by the NYPLA on, trends and patterns of AI and mental health. And I would say the majority of this room, it was about 50 providers. You know, they look at AI as the big scary guy, right? And fair to say because of what you see in the news, and when we talk about the risks and failures of AI. So I think it's important to realize where AI can have great value proposition, where we can really apply it to specific business cases,
Mhm.
such as being able to augment some of the daily repetitive manual tasks that you're doing.
Mhm.
When I think of AI, I think of like as my assistant or my intern.
Mhm.
It's not intelligent enough, potentially maybe in 15 years or maybe less, as the AI thought leaders are talking about it. But as of today, the state of AI is really what you give it or what you direct it to do.
Mhm.
So the great example that I like to use to dispel some of the fears and ambiguity of I tell providers, hey, like if Google Maps tells you to jump off Brooklyn Bridge, would you jump off Brooklyn Bridge? Absolutely not, right? So, and I think something to where we feel it's very critical to highlight is Kura Health is human loop in the approach.
Mhm.
And it's very important that we're AI assisted, we're not AI autonomous.
Correct.
Uh,
Yes.
right.
I,
So,
I think like one of the biggest worries that clinicians have is the importance of the human element in well-being,
yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And we've all seen like the shows like Black Mirror and stuff like that, where
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
extreme of these things, and you could see society heading in that way in some aspects. But y- I don't know what your thoughts are, but my opinion is that when it comes to therapy, in person, humanistic, I don't see that ever being replaced. And I see that
I agree with you.
even with virtual one-on-one sessions, it's a great
Yeah,
like little maintenance thing. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we've built communities at Healing Us, and the power of human touch and experience is vitally important to actually healing that person.
yeah,
And I would hate to see us go down a road that thinks otherwise.
yeah.
But I think generally people. Wait, what do you feel? Do you think people generally understand that?
Absolutely. I am very much a big believer. We are, by default, social beings. We're meant to connect and we're meant to create and establish relationships. Uh, I, I I believe the number one longevity quality is the quality of your relationships. So that is just to tell you, how we are wired
Right.
as human beings. So I think at the core, that is something that's always going to be within us, and that is what we're always going to crave. I don't think AI can replace that or take that away. And I agree with you when it comes to AI chatbots or AI therapists. I think they can be specific business cases where you're more on the baseline. You might have a couple of stressors throughout the week, or it's something that has to be minor to be able for you to go to an AI chatbot, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the more severe, high acuity, or you're going through grief, either losing somebody or work, job loss, right? You're craving that emotional support. And I think that's the where the therapist comes in, and that's the critical role of therapy, that at the end of the day you get to talk to someone who is non-judgmental,
Mm-hmm.
and is there to listen and give you therapeutic advice, right? How to better manage this very challenging time. So I'm a big believer in human touch, and I don't think any AI can take that away from us, regardless of what some people might say.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, I would say within the treatment center where we're dealing with high acuity, this is, as I said, this is a human business. It's an emotional business,
Mm-hmm.
and most people that are in it, it's because they're very close to the topic, and they're very passionate about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in it.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a monster undertaking to say the least. I mean, it's not easy to start a company, let alone an innovative, groundbreaking approach to how we're going to utilize these new AI technologies and do something that no one else has done before. So what inspired you to climb this mountain?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get asked a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
We
get
were like, why?
yeah, exactly. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Uh, well, I was a personal caregiver to a loved one, and it kind of happened overnight. Unfortunately, in 2021, someone very close and dear to me suffered a mental breakdown. They were hospitalized, and they had no family around, and I, was the closest person. So I became a caregiver overnight. At the time when this whole journey started, I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no clinical depth of, what to expect and what is
So no
going to
like
happen.
family history
I,
experiences prior.
exactly. I had no family history prior. Uh, I think when it comes to myself, I think I had some post-traumatic stress when I was in my college days, which I was able to overcome easily because I had great support. But that is the extent of my mental health challenges over time. And when it came to this specific scenario, uh, of course, I jumped in because this is someone that I deeply cared about. And I wanted to help, and I wanted to see them get better. But what transpired, unfortunately, was a very intensive period of 12 months of looking after someone. And what I realized is that the hospital systems are extremely challenging, fragmented. It was also COVID. It was the second year of COVID. It happened in 21. And unfortunately, we weren't getting the right care. We couldn't find the right providers. It took us forever to find the right type of treatment after 12 months. And so what transpired was multiple hospitalizations throughout the span of those 12 months, multiple treatment centers. And what I came to the conclusion is that hospitals operate like a catch and release program. They're not incentivized to keep you long term. They're great to stabilize someone. They'll usually keep you 5 to 7 days max, and then they will release you back out, and you're kind of left on your own. If you're struggling with severe mental health, and if you don't have support around you, uh, you could potentially end up being homeless or potentially committing suicide. And so for me,
Which state? Sorry to back up, but which state was this occurring in?
in New York.
In New York. Yeah, we have such in New York and New Jersey. There's a huge gap of care that exists, especially at the crisis level.
Yeah.
And what people have to understand when it comes to hospitals is the billing is part of the corporate the issue that causes this, because for facilities that are like outpatient, privately owned,
Mm.
we bill on a per diem basis.
Mm.
Where a hospital, they have essentially block billing. So whether that person stays 3 days or 10 days, they make X.
Yeah.
Right. So what that does incoherently is, well, the faster I get people out the door, the next person that comes in,
Yeah.
and basically my per diem rate goes up
Yeah.
with people staying less time.
Yeah.
Aside from that is they only really can bill for a crisis. So once the person is stabilized because they gave them some kind of medication or whatever, unfortunately, they're like the way they itemize this and note take is that the person's stable, but they're nowhere near stable. They're just
Absolutely not.
comatose. Right.
Absolutely not. It
So,
was
so this
just
is what you're experiencing.
Yeah, it was just a band-aid, right? Within 5 to 7 days, and hey, here you go, and you kind of have to figure things out on your own. And the other challenge that I had when I was looking for a psychiatrist post-hospital discharge, I couldn't find one. Right. Most people were remote, and I needed someone in person, physical. And with all the hospital systems, I went through their directories and I would make appointments, and I would get called or they would email me, hey, we're canceling this appointment. And I was like, why are you canceling on me? They're like, we do not take a post-hospital discharge. So I'm like, who on earth in New York City takes someone who was just discharged? So I found that extremely challenging. And I would say, as after the first hospitalization, when the individual was at home, within a couple of days, I saw mania pick up again. I saw symptoms, and I needed this person to be medicated properly. And that's why I was very frantic when it came to looking for a psychiatrist. And I would say after 3 days of looking and getting canceled, I finally got a recommendation from London.
Of all places, because England has terrible mental health care.
Exactly. But it was an international effort in trying to find available psychiatrist in New York City that's willing to see someone in person. And finally, once I found somebody, I was like, great, amazing, made an appointment. They're like, well, I don't take insurance and I charge $700 up front. I was like, it is what it is. I am
At that point, you're desperate.
Yeah, I'm desperate. I'm vulnerable. I don't have the luxury to keep looking, especially what I just, been through. And but that was the state of mental health, or trying to get help in 21. And, we experienced multiple hospitalizations. But here's where I found solace in the treatment center. After the second hospitalization, I felt the need that this person needs to be in a treatment center. It was absolutely mandatory to kind of help them bridge that reintegration in their day-to-day life. And, they were able to stay for 30 days. I wish I had stayed longer. But even with that 30 days, they came back much more stable at very much their baseline, and they had picked up a skill set while they were in treatment, and they were cognizant of what had happened. So therefore, I felt that the treatment center is a very nice soft landing for someone before they're ready to come home. And, the second double-edged sword with, when you're a caregiver, unfortunately, over time, the medication does have side effects that can be controversial long-term. And, then you're dealing with a non-compliant individual. Right? Meaning, hey, I do not need to be on medication. I am not ill. I'm perfectly fine. Because once they see themselves getting better, right?
Like, okay, I'm done.
After,
Solved.
yeah, exactly. After
Yeah.
3 months, like, oh, I'm great. I feel good. Like, I am
Back to normal.
and I'm not ill, and there's nothing wrong with me, right? So, something that needs to be understood very clearly when it comes to mental health and high acuity, it's a long-term, consistent management where you really have to implement mental health hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we're talking about sleep patterns, eating patterns, and being able to live a very balanced life, but at the same time take the medication so you can live that wonderful life that...
And while you're going through this process, are any of these treatment centers or hospitals educating you?
Absolutely not. It was trial and error. It was me constantly being on reactive mode, and also learning the legal complexities in hospitalizing someone, and what to do and what to say, and what to do within the first 72 hours if someone is hospitalized, right? And the third hospitalization, where I had to stage an intervention, uh, it was, it was intense because this person had stopped taking medication. I thought they were getting better. They had stopped taking medication, and they had gotten some conflicting advice from the psychiatrist that perhaps they have a different diagnosis, and they were prescribed another medication. So this, confused to someone who already was, suffering from paranoia and still was experiencing, residue of that paranoia, which made it very challenging for me as a caregiver to really, hey, this is where we're actually at. We need to continue the path that we started in order to live a very fulfilling life, right? And so by the third hospitalization, that stopped taking medication, they were refusing help. So then I had to stage another intervention and hospitalize them again because unfortunately, mania was back.
And this is what's so sad with this system, because if all the pieces were there from the start, we could get ahead of it. It's not that
Absolutely.
people won't make mistakes or they won't fall back down, like they
Yeah.
cured, but you would be educated and know what
Exactly.
the hell is going on, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it keep you healthier. And the person, I could speak from experience as someone that went in back to back to back to back treatment centers over an 18-month stint, that like you just feel so defeated. You're like, this isn't working. Like, I'm doing the same thing over again. I
Yep.
can teach the class at this point.
Yeah.
Like, this is defeating, but it's because the loop isn't being closed, really.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle,
Yeah.
right? What that lack of care from the first hospital has incited a multiple vicious hospitalization cycle. And then you're going from one treatment to another treatment center,
Right.
right? Which
And everybody's getting burnt out of the process, which you
absolutely,
give up hope, really, that anything's going to be different, which is, as a caregiver,
yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
and no one's helping you. You're not getting caregiven,
No,
and you're
and
going through the trauma of it, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I started experiencing my own health issues after I stepped away being a caregiver, where I was in the ER every 2 weeks because I had heart palpitations. I had um, muscle aches, or on my way from work to my apartment, I would experience dizziness. So I had no idea or no comprehension what was happening with me. So I would end up in the ER every 2 weeks for an entire month. Then I kept going to every specialist, cardiovascular, neurologist. I thought maybe I have some early signs of MS, God knows, right? And I did every test possible in the span of 3 months. At the end of the day, to be told, actually, there's nothing wrong with you physically. Potentially, you might have chronic anxiety. So,
You have no idea what I just lived through, right? Yeah.
right. And then when it came to asking for help, I was like, well, do you have a psychiatrist on site? Do you have a therapist? Oh, no, we don't have someone. They actually come here every 2 weeks, but they're only available a couple hours. I was like, oh, great, thank you. And they're
Here we
like,
go again.
yeah, here we go again, right? It's like, I can't even get help from myself.
Which is
Yeah,
pathetic. You're living in New York City at the time,
yeah,
Manhattan,
absolutely.
global market, millions of people, right,
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah. So then I called my insurance, and I was given a couple of names, and then I go ahead and call these people, and no one responded. I managed to get well, better on my own and, figure out the triggers, where, after a couple of months, I was no longer experiencing those palpitations. But it was a very scary moment because I think after being a caregiver for an intensive 12 months, even though my mind kept going, however, my body was shutting down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's PTSD. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly, exactly.
And you shouldn't have to. I mean, there's probably a fear, like I know you were rational, so you probably weren't like didn't believe this, but for me, in a sense, I'd be like, did I just catch what this other person has? Like,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna end up in the same boat.
yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was a reckoning year. It was a reckoning year for the person going through it, right? And it was a reckoning year for me personally. And, looking back, I think about it, I'm like, would I have done the same thing? Absolutely. I still would have, come in and done the same thing. I just wish I had better tools. My obsession throughout my caregiving experience was really monitoring someone's behavior on a day-to-day basis, because here is where I would ask the doctors or the therapists from the hospital, hey, here's what I am noticing, here's what I am observing, what do you think? And no one could really give me a straight answer, which as a very logical, rational person, I found that very frustrating. And I said, well, how can we plan for this, right? And here's what, we've been through. Um, what is post-care management look like? When can I expect this person to have clear thoughts? And where can I expect the paranoia to subside? At what point, right? Or how should I be talking to them? What are the type of conversations that I should be having with them? How should I guide them, right? And there was really nothing available. And I just thought, well, there's got to be a better way to track patient journey. And based on this lived experience, painful lived experience, here's where the inspiration for Kura came along.
Mm.
And for me, it was, hey, how can we create a scientific m- platform, something that measures someone over time? How can we avoid that next relapse, the third, the fourth relapse? Because the reality is, you know, people will unfortunately experience that default, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing is ever guaranteed. But how can we have a better platform that, gives us the information and the tools available to know how to better manage? I think a tool for the person themselves so they can have a digital mirror of, hey, here's what's actually happening with you, but also a better tool for the caregivers, the family members, and
How do you see how do you see families being able to interact with the interface of Cura? Is there a way for them to ask those questions or prompt those questions and be given possible suggestions, or
absolutely
for
in the
them to be
future.
part of their
Yeah,
journey?
while we're building Cura right now for in clinical setting, the ultimate goal is actually for Cura to travel with the patient once they're discharged,
Hmm,
right?
that would be huge.
And not only with the patient, but also with the caregivers, because the journey doesn't end
Yep.
post discharge. It's a very long, painful journey
Mm-hmm.
that requires a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifice. So I think it's critical for everyone involved to be informed of what is happening at any time.
Oh, absolutely. And that educational piece for families, and I mean, I know what my parents went through trying to figure out what to do with me, and yeah, calling it back in the insurance company, the insurance card, and just there's a lot of fragmentation, like you spoke about. So those educational pieces of what to expect, what to do, it's so vitally important, and that's why at Healing Us, the family component's always been a big
Yeah,
part of the
yeah,
system. But to have that tool where families have access to solutions on a 24/7 basis, or at least an explanation so that they can feel more comfortable, because it truly does make the whole family sick, right? Our
yeah,
our our
absolutely.
our actions as humans ripple, and we don't have control over that ripple. We only have control over the action. So it's I've seen it, what it did to my family, and the process that they had to go through their healing,
Mhm.
and feeling guilty in a way, like I was getting better,
Mm,
and like they're still stuck
yeah,
where we were,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So like one of the things we did in my early recovery is, my mom actually saw the same therapist I did in my
yeah,
treatment center,
yeah,
and so she started beginning her healing process. But it's tough, so one of the pieces that we've always said was, the family's always included, which is great. Um, but I think families are reluctant to ask.
mm,
Sometimes they feel like they're being a burden, or they're being annoying by calling and asking questions. And sometimes it is difficult to get you all the answers impromptu, especially during working hours for clinicians. They
yeah,
don't have the time to make a million phone calls in between sessions.
yeah.
So having access would
Well,
be
I think
huge.
also the other insightful learning for me was, well, there's different life cycles of a mental health journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's different types of cares and solution depending where you are at,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's very important to know and have that information available so then you can act accordingly, right? I think for me, I wish I knew more about the treatment centers and the different types of treatment centers, right? The PHPs and the IOPs and the residential housing, because I think that would have eased recovery uh, in a tremendous way. Because what I was dealing with was hospital, involuntary commitment, discharge, at home, severity again, hospital again. And then I'm like, oh, treatment center. I'm like, okay, let me get you into a treatment center.
Yeah. You're bouncing from one
E-
extreme to the other, playing
exactly.
parole officer when they're home
Exactly.
and have
Exactly.
anxiety with no information when they're
E-
in crisis.
exactly. Like, I think, all these additional hospitalizations could have been avoided if I was aware of all the available uh, care centers that we could have got access to. So I think it's important to differentiate where you are in your mental health journey and, being able to match you to the right care.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for, hindsight's always 2020, and there's a silver lining to every challenge that we have in life, right?
Absolutely.
And if we're able to overcome a challenge, what I always say, our curse can become a gift.
Yeah,
And I think you are taking a chapter in your life that created some turmoil and challenge for you, and I applaud you for turning that into something that may solve a lot of problems for others and families that are going through this. So I can't wait to see what you do with this.
thank
And
you.
I believe we need this, and looking forward to just watching your journey. So where can people find you and learn more about Kura?
We're online at KuraHealth.ai. I am also available on LinkedIn.
Yeah, the
Uh,
glorious LinkedIn.
exactly, exactly. The glorious LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm a member of the NYPLA, and I'm always going to events, especially in the tri-state area. But also, Cura is available nationwide, where our services are being used in multiple states, which are very excited, and we're growing.
I love it. So we'll make sure that we put the links into the summary below, and looking forward to furthering this conversation down the road. And once you keep developing and everything there. So thank you for coming on today and sharing
Thank
your
you for having
story
me, Dan.
and sharing Cura with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we'll see you next time. Looking forward to our next episode.